Hi everyone, I'm Shelly from There's No Place Like Home at redheadmom8.wordpress.com. I'm going to be honest with you. I didn't even know for sure what topic I was going to be talking about with you today until I sat down in front of the camera just now, because I've had a few ideas running through my head and I wasn't sure which one I would share today. But the one that won out was actually a question that was posed to me a couple years ago when I had written a homeschooling article for a parenting website. And that question is, how can homeschoolers learn only from their parents? I'm going to admit I was pretty taken aback that somebody actually asked that question. How can homeschoolers learn only from their parents? But I think that's just because I have been homeschooling for quite a long time now. And so being with my kids and being in charge of their education is second nature to me. But I think that it's a question that a lot of people actually wonder about, even if they don't say it out loud or type it into a comment like this person did. How can homeschoolers learn only from their parents? And people who ask this question are probably coming from a place of thinking about school and how, children past elementary school have, different teachers to teach different subjects. And so they have different adults in their lives who are educating them, who are teaching them the things that they need to know. And, it's a pretty popular homeschooling myth that homeschoolers don't leave their houses. Even now, homeschooling is actually going pretty mainstream. A lot of kids are doing it, but for some reason, people still have this idea that homeschooled children never leave their house. So first, let's just tackle that issue. And I'm going to get to the part about parents and educating their kids a little bit later. But let's just talk about this. First of all, most homeschooled children are not only with their parents all the time. I would say 99% of homeschooled children are not with their parents all the time. They are exposed to other adults. They are exposed to coaches, to Sunday school teachers, sometimes to co-op teachers, to their friends' parents, to grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins, other relatives, teachers at classes that they might be taking. And, the list goes on and on and on. So to think that kids who are in school are the only ones who can be exposed to other adults who are able to give them knowledge and to share their expertise with them, it just isn't true. Homeschool children are not stuck in their home all the time. But now let's move on to what I think is the more crucial part of this question. And it seems to me that the idea that parents are second-class citizens when it comes to educating their children is really, really prevalent in society today. Not even when it comes to educating kids. Let's be honest, parents are really being pushed to the sides. Parental rights are being taken left and right. And the whole attitude that comes from some people with homeschooling and parents educating their kids, it's no different than a lot of the stuff that's going on. But the thing is that this attitude really is coming from a society that has been so used to generations of kids not being home with their parents that they don't understand that it has always been done like that prior to compulsory schooling. Yeah, you would hear of, schooling being discussed every now and then, way back in history, but it was never to the point that it was like it is today, where we live in a society where, you have to send your kids to school. You have to educate your kids somehow, or, you are going to have a lot of legal problems if you don't do it. And so that idea has really been ground in to people nowadays, and they just don't understand that parents are probably the best teachers for their kids. they will not only be worrying about the academic things with their children, they will be working about those character issues. At least hopefully they will be working with those character issues with their kids. These are things that are not going on in school. And to be quite honest, I don't think teachers have any business going over moral values and character issues with kids. I really don't, because I really think that it is something that has to begin in the home. And, you know, teachers, they're not invested in children like parents are. And, you know, this isn't to bash teachers or anything, because a lot of teachers genuinely care for their kids. But, you know, when you look at homeschooling parents, you're not going to get a teacher who loves a child more than their parent. And that is really what's at stake here. So often we tend to look at only the academic things, you know, like calculus and physics. But we forget about the part of teaching your child kindness, teaching them to love one another, teaching them integrity, honesty, generosity, how to serve others. These are things that are not going to be taught in school unless it is a very one-sided issue that seems to be going on in school. And, well, let's just say that I am posting this video during all of the climate change protests and everything. There's a lot of political stuff going on in schools. And that is, you know, that's a huge reason why it's not a school's responsibility to push moral and character things onto kids. Because then you walk that fine line of politicism, and it is no school's business to lean one way or the other in a school. That is to be left up to the parent. So parents, for some reason, we really get the raw end of the deal. The fact is that when you love your child, when you are absolutely dedicated to making sure that your kids get the best education that you can, you are going to find a way to meet their needs when it comes to their education. And, you know, a lot of people think, I don't know why, but they think that when somebody gets a teaching degree, all of a sudden this whole light of knowledge comes over them, and they just know everything, and they never have questions about anything. And if there's anything that you ever needed to know about anything in the world, all you have to do is ask a teacher, because they have that degree. They know everything. But that's not really the case. Parents can learn alongside of their children. They really can, and they do. And parents have the advantage of being able to present things to their kids in a way that teachers just can't do when they're in a class of 25 to 30 kids. Additionally, parents are again, they're more likely to want to present things to their children in a way that is going to stick with them. And, you know, you do have some fantastic teachers like John Taylor Gatto. He comes to mind. He was a teacher who genuinely loved his students, and he was a hero of mine. But even he admitted to the fact that you are not going to get a better role model for your child than a parent. You know, and unless it's extreme cases, okay, yes, there are extreme cases where the parents are not the best role models for their kids. But for the most part, yes, that is who should be with kids. And one more thing that I actually forgot to talk about when I was talking about having other adults come into, you know, your kids' lives and everything, so that they are exposed to other people who are teaching them different things, showing them different pieces of wisdom that they have, is that, you know, way back when the saying, it takes a village to raise a child, when that saying was originally expressed, that was speaking of a village like a community of relatives, a community of close-knit people who knew each other, who intimately lived and worked near one another, and were just had that bond that we don't have as a society today. Today, when people think of the phrase, it takes a village to raise a child, they think of teachers. They think of other authority figures. So what they're looking at is they're looking at people like teachers, they're looking at other governmental figures. They are looking at those experts that very often, even though they have that piece of paper, are not really the experts that they claim to be. So when you ask the question, how can a child only learn from their parents? It has happened for centuries. And to be honest, if you look at pre-compulsory schooling, the things that children were accomplishing, what our kids are doing today has been completely dumbed down. Our kids, and I'm actually going to talk about this in another video because I don't want to get into it too much now, but suffice it to say that the dumbing down of America isn't just America. It has happened all over the world, and there's a reason that this has happened. But I've been reading about George Washington. He was about 12 years old. He was considered to be of average intelligence by his peers. He wasn't considered to be like a brain or a prodigy, anything like that. Yet the accomplishments that he had, they in our day and age, you would never hear of a child doing the things that George Washington did. Even things like just reading Plato. He was reading Plato when he was 12. He was reading Daniel Defoe when he was 12. He only went to school for 2 years, and he became a president of the United States. And, today, you look at the things that our children are doing at the same age that he was, and it is clear that school has not been a good thing for our kids. Kids need to be with their parents. They need to be exposed to what real life is all about. They need to be exposed to what real values are all about. And, being taught by other people, being taught by strangers, really it's not always an advantage at all. Anyway, that's all that I have for you today. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed yet and would like to hear more of what I have to say, I would love if you would do that. If you have any questions or comments, you can leave one over on Instagram because YouTube always disables my comments. And if you like my work and would like to check out my Patreon page and see what rewards I have for my patrons there, I will leave that link as well. And I hope you have a great day.